You ever walk into a room and know instantly you don't belong there? That was me last Friday. I was standing just inside the school gymnasium, clutching a paper cup of lukewarm coffee, watching rows of polished parents settle into folding chairs as if they were front row at Carnegie Hall. The air was filled with the buzz of excitement, squeaky sneakers on the hardwood floor, echoing microphone checks, and the scent of over-applied perfume and powdered donuts. It was career day at Rosewood Elementary. My daughter, Olivia, had been talking about it all week. "Everyone's parent is coming in, Mom," she said Monday night while brushing her teeth. "Kayla's dad's a firefighter. Brandon's mom works at NASA." She beamed up at me, toothpaste foam around her mouth like a kid in a commercial. I smiled and said, "And I'm just your boring mom who fixes broken lamps and paints people's kitchens." She laughed. "You're not boring. You're my favorite artist." That hit me hard, because in her eyes, I'm more than what I've settled for. But I knew the truth. I clean houses and do odd jobs to make ends meet. After my ex left 5 years ago, things got tight. Tighter than I ever admitted to her. There were nights I'd skip dinner, so she could eat. I've painted more apartment walls than I can count, replaced baseboards, hauled broken furniture, all while making sure Olivia never felt the weight of what we lacked. So, when she begged me to come to career day, I hesitated. What would I say? That I scrub tile for a living? That I take whatever work comes my way? But Olivia said, "Please? I already told the teacher you were coming." That was the end of it. I circled the date in red on the fridge. I borrowed a decent blazer from my neighbor, practiced what I'd say in the mirror, even made a little poster board with photos of before and after projects from jobs I'd done. "Helping people feel proud of their homes again," it said in cursive. I knew it wasn't flashy, but it was real. It was mine. So there I stood, near the back, waiting for Olivia's class to take the stage. Then I heard them. A small group of parents nearby, chatting too loudly. "Who's the woman with the paint-stained shoes?" one asked, stifling a laugh. "I think she's one of the custodians," said another. Must be. They didn't know I could hear them. Or maybe they didn't care. I looked down. The shoes, I'd forgotten to change them. They were my only comfortable pair. I suddenly felt very out of place. When Mrs. Porter called Olivia's class to the front, I saw her scanning the crowd. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. She waved so hard her hand nearly flew off. I waved back, forcing a smile. My stomach was tight. Each kid stepped up and introduced their parent. Kayla's dad talked about saving people from fires. Brandon's mom explained how she helps launch satellites. The room buzzed with admiration. Then Olivia walked up, poster board in hand. She cleared her throat. "Hi, I'm Olivia, and my hero is my mom." A few polite claps. She paints walls, fixes old stuff, and helps people who can't do it on their own. Once, she stayed up all night repainting a neighbor's room after a flood. She didn't ask for money. She just did it. Because she said kindness isn't something you charge for. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Then she said, "My mom is the hardest working person I know. And when I grow up, I want to be just like her." Silence. And then, from the row of teachers and staff, someone laughed. I couldn't tell who, but it was loud enough for Olivia to hear. She paused, looked out at the crowd, then back at me. Her smile faltered. Another teacher leaned toward the microphone and whispered something to the student next to her. They both chuckled. Olivia swallowed hard, lowered her poster, and walked back to her seat. My hands were shaking. My daughter had just bared her heart, honored me in front of strangers, and they laughed. Not the kids. The adults. That was the moment something snapped inside me. I wasn't angry for myself. I've been dismissed before. Judged for what I wear, where I work, what I can't afford. But Olivia? She still believed the world was fair. That people clap when you're kind. That love is enough. And now? She'd seen something different. After the event, I rushed toward her. But she was already walking fast, her poster rolled up tight in her fists. "Hey, sweet pea, wait up." She stopped near the water fountain. Didn't look at me. Just whispered. Why did they laugh? I knelt beside her. I don't know, baby. Do they think what you do isn't important? I blinked back tears. Some people forget what really matters.
But I don't care what they think.
You saw me. That's all that counts. She nodded, but I could tell. Something had dimmed. That night, after she fell asleep with her poster under her pillow, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the flyer for career day still stuck to the fridge. I thought about how proud she had been,
How brave.
and how that bravery had been met with cruelty. I wasn't going to let that be the end of the story. Not for her. Not for me. Before we continue, take a moment to let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to more powerful stories like this one. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. Usually, Olivia is a whirlwind before school, asking me to braid her hair a different way at the last second, forgetting her lunch on the counter, running back up the stairs because she needed the blue notebook, not the green one. But that day, she moved slowly. Her face was blank. Her backpack was zipped and ready before I even reminded her. She didn't ask me to walk her in. She didn't ask me to wave from the gate. She didn't say goodbye. I stood by the window, watching her walk down the sidewalk alone, that big backpack bouncing with each step. And I realized it wasn't just the laughter that hurt her. It was the silence that followed. The teachers had laughed, and no one stopped them. And I had done nothing. I had just sat there, frozen, like I always do when someone looks down on me. That wasn't going to happen again. I took the day off work, though technically there was no one to call. Self-employed painters don't get sick days or mental health breaks. But I had something more important to do. I drove straight to the school. The secretary, Mrs. Linden, raised an eyebrow when I walked in. "Can I help you? I'd like to speak with Principal Avery. Do you have an appointment?"
No.
"But it's urgent. It's about career day." She gave me that look, half annoyance, half suspicion, and clicked around on her computer. She has a 10-minute window before her next meeting. That's all I need. I sat on the small vinyl chair outside the principal's office, surrounded by laminated posters that said things like, "Kindness is cool," and "Every student matters." I stared at them, wondering if whoever designed them actually believed it. When I walked into Principal Avery's office, she looked up with a tight, polite smile. "Ms. Marlowe," she said. "Everything okay?" I sat across from her, pulled out the same poster board Olivia had used, the one she'd stuffed into her backpack so angrily, and laid it flat on the desk between us. "My daughter made this," I said. She poured her heart into it. And yesterday, she was humiliated in front of her classmates and adults who should have known better. Her smile didn't fade, but her eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry to hear that. Career Day is meant to be encouraging." "It wasn't," I said sharply. "Olivia stood on that stage and talked about me, her mother. And someone laughed. A teacher. Maybe more than one. I don't know who. But it happened. I was there." Principal Avery shifted in her seat. "I'm sure it wasn't malicious. Sometimes people react without thinking." "That's not good enough," I said. "Your teachers set the tone for this entire school. If they can't show respect to a child speaking from a heart, how do you expect the students to learn empathy?" Her fingers tapped once on her desk. "We'll look into it. I want more than that." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "I want a formal apology. I want the teachers who laugh to be spoken to, not just reminded to be mindful or whatever vague phrasing you'll put in an email. I want my daughter to know that standing up and speaking about someone she loves wasn't a mistake." Principal Avery sighed. "Ms. Marlowe, I understand that you're upset." "No," I interrupted, voice calm but steady. "You understand that I'm inconvenient. There's a difference." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The silence hung in the air like a dare. "I'll speak to the faculty involved," she finally said. "And I'll address the incident with the Career Day Committee. That's all I can promise for now." "Then that's where I'll start," I said. I stood, rolled up the poster, and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't raise my voice. But every step I took down that hallway felt different. Heavier. More certain. I picked Olivia up from school that day. She slid into the car without a word, eyes down. "How was your day?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She shrugged. Fine. But it wasn't. When we got home, she went straight to her room. I waited an hour before knocking gently. Can I come in? A pause. Then, I guess. She was sitting on the floor, coloring. Not with her usual flair. No stars or animals or bold, impossible creatures. Just rows of black lines. Back and forth. Back and forth. I went to talk to your principal today, I said. She didn't look up. I told her what happened. What was said. I told her it wasn't okay. Silence. Then Olivia spoke so quietly I almost missed it. You don't have to do that. Do what? Make a big deal. It just makes it worse. I sat beside her.
No, sweetie.
It makes it right. She stared at her paper, then said something that knocked the air from my lungs. I don't want to be like you anymore. I froze. What? She turned to me, eyes shining with frustration. I thought what you did mattered.
But they laughed.
They laughed because you paint houses and fix broken stuff like it's important. My heart cracked in half. I'm sorry they hurt you, I whispered. But you don't have to stop being proud of me just because someone else isn't. I just want them to like me, she said. And now they don't. I didn't have an answer for that. Not then. That night, I stared at the ceiling long after she fell asleep. I kept hearing those words. I don't want to be like you anymore. I remembered how many times I'd wondered if I was failing her. If all the scrubbing and sanding and scraping I did with my hands would ever be enough to build her a better life. And now she was ashamed of me. But what she didn't know, what those teachers didn't know, was that I wasn't done. They thought career day was over. But for me, it was just beginning. I woke up the next morning with a different kind of fire in my chest. It wasn't anger, exactly. It was something deeper, something older. Like a forgotten part of me had finally sat upright and said, enough. I moved like a woman with a mission because I was one. Olivia was quiet at breakfast again. She pushed her toast around her plate, barely touched her eggs. I didn't press her. Instead, I slipped her sketch pad into her backpack when she wasn't looking. I had a feeling she might need it today. After she left for school, I grabbed a box of tools, my best set of brushes, and 2 unopened cans of deep ocean blue paint. I tossed them in the trunk of my car and drove back to Rosewood Elementary, only this time, not through the front entrance. I parked in the rear lot and walked around to the north wing of the school, where the maintenance shed sat quiet and forgotten. I knew this part of the building well. I had volunteered there once, repainting doors during a spring break cleanup when Olivia was in first grade. Nobody ever noticed the work. Nobody ever thanked me. But I remembered. I set down my supplies beside the gray, weather-flaked side wall, the wall that faced the playground but never held anything except rust stains and a half-faded no climbing sign. This would be my canvas. And my message. I opened the paint can, dipped my roller, and started covering the wall with bold, wide strokes. At first, it was just color, layer after layer of fresh blue, the kind that looks like possibility. I could already picture it in my mind, every line, every curve. A mural. One no one asked for, but one the children would see every day. I painted for hours, using colors I mixed myself. Sunlight, midnight, sunflower yellow, brick red. I painted a girl standing on a ladder, brush in hand, painting a sky where none had been before. Around her were tools, not wrenches or screwdrivers, but symbols, a paintbrush, a hammer, a pencil, a heart. Words floated above her in Olivia's favorite cursive. Making something better is never a small thing. I signed the bottom corner, not with my name, but with a small O and M inside a heart. By the time I stepped back and looked at the finished wall, my arms ached, my knees were sore, and my clothes were speckled in color. But I didn't feel tired. I felt seen for the first time in a long time. Just as I was cleaning up, I heard someone behind me clear their throat. I turned. It was Mr. Belkin, the janitor. He'd always been kind, always nodding at me during school events, the kind of man who saw things without saying much. He looked at the wall for a long moment, then said, "Did you get permission for that?"
No, I said.
"But I got purpose." He smiled. Well, it's the best damn thing I've seen on this wall in 20 years. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I needed to. Think they'll make me paint over it? Maybe. But first they'll have to explain to a bunch of kids why they're erasing something beautiful. I liked that man more than I ever had before. Before I left, I snapped a picture of the mural with my phone. I texted it to Principal Avery with one sentence. Consider this my career day presentation. That evening, Olivia came home, quieter than usual. Her shoulders drooped. She didn't even look up when she walked through the door. I knelt in front of her and said, "Want to see what I did today?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo of the mural. Her eyes widened. "You painted that at my school?" "On the back wall by the playground," I said, "where the sun hits just right in the afternoon." Her mouth dropped open slightly as she stared at it. "That girl, she looks like me." "She's you," I said. "And she's me too." She stared at it for a long time. Then, in the smallest voice, she whispered, "Did they say anything about it?" "I don't know yet. But I didn't paint it for them." "Then who?" "For the kids who don't see their stories in fancy brochures. For the ones who bring their parents to career day with calloused hands and big hearts. For the ones who still think kindness counts for something." She smiled a little. "It's beautiful." I brushed her hair behind her ear. "You are, too." She hesitated, then said something I wasn't expecting. "I told Mrs. Porter I wasn't proud of you." The air left my lungs. "I was embarrassed," she added quickly. "I didn't mean it, but I wanted them to stop laughing." My throat tightened. "I know." She looked up at me, her face pale with guilt. "I'm sorry." I wrapped my arms around her. "It's okay. You don't need to protect me from their ignorance. That's my job, to protect you from believing them." We sat there in silence for a while, both holding on a little tighter than usual. Later that night, just before bed, I heard my phone buzz. It was an email from Principal Avery. "Ms. Marlowe, I saw the mural. I think it's powerful. I also think we should talk. Please come in tomorrow morning." From Avery. I didn't know what to expect. But I knew this much. I wasn't walking into that meeting as just Olivia's mom anymore. I was walking in as a woman who painted her truth on a wall they never thought twice about. The next morning, I dropped Olivia off at school myself. She clung to my arm as we walked through the front gates, her eyes darting between the teachers and staff who passed us. "Will they be mad at you?" she asked. "Maybe," I said gently. "But being brave means sometimes people don't clap for you right away." She nodded slowly and slipped her hand from mine. Before she ran off to class, she turned back and whispered, "I liked the sky you painted." I smiled. "That's because it was your sky, too." After she disappeared through the doors, I made my way to the front office, where Mrs. Linden gave me a look like she was bracing for a storm. "She's waiting for you," she said, gesturing toward the principal's door. I walked in and found Principal Avery sitting at her desk, holding a printed photo of the mural. Her lips were pursed, but her eyes flicked up with something I couldn't read. "Ms. Marlowe," she said. "Please. Have a seat." "Iset." Silence stretched between us for several seconds. She finally broke it. "I have to admit, I wasn't expecting this." She held up the photo. I didn't reply. "You didn't ask for permission." "No," I said, "but I don't think Olivia asked for mockery either." She exhaled. "Look, I've spoken with the faculty involved. They say it wasn't laughter at Olivia. It was just a moment of light conversation. Taken out of context." I leaned forward. "Do you know what it does to a child when someone in authority laughs at the person they love the most? Do you know what it does to their sense of identity?" She looked down at her desk. "I'm not here for a polished explanation," I continued. "I'm here because my daughter stood on that stage and said I was her hero. And in response, adults, your staff, made her feel like loving me was something to be embarrassed about." A long pause. Then she nodded slowly. "You're right," she said. "I rewatched the video from the event. And I heard it. The laughter. The comment about your shoes." I stiffened. "So it was caught on video?" "Yes." Then we're not debating feelings. We're acknowledging facts. She gave a tight nod. I've already filed a notice with Human Resources. There will be formal reprimands. And I plan to address the career day expectations in the next faculty meeting. I've also added a note to speak directly with Olivia to apologize. Something in me softened just a hair.
I appreciate that, I said.
But that mural, that's staying. Whether it's considered official or not. I have no intention of taking it down. That surprised me. In fact, she continued, I was wondering if you might consider speaking at next month's assembly. I blinked.
What?
She leaned back in her chair. We're hosting a Community Heroes event. I think what you did and the conversation it's created is more important than most of the official speakers I've booked. I didn't answer immediately. Part of me wanted to decline on principle. But then I thought of Olivia and the dozens of other kids who may have heard that laugh and internalized something they shouldn't have. All right, I said quietly. I'll do it. She gave a small smile. Thank you, Ms. Marlowe. I stood. One more thing. Yes, when you speak with Olivia, don't just apologize for the laughter. Apologize for making her believe, even for a second, that kindness, hard work, and love aren't enough. She nodded, slower this time. I will. I walked out of that office, standing a little taller. Not because I had won, but because I hadn't backed down. That afternoon, I picked Olivia up early. I told the school she had a dentist appointment. Really, I just needed to spend time with her. To give her a break from the whispers and glances. We got ice cream, sat on the edge of the town fountain, and watched pigeons chase crumbs. She laughed for the first time in days. I said, Your principal is going to apologize to you. Her eyes widened. Really? She watched the video. She knows what happened. And I think she knows what it cost you. Olivia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I don't want people to be in trouble. I brushed a lock of hair from her cheek. It's not about trouble. It's about responsibility. Adults don't always get to be careless and walk away. She nodded like she was filing that away in some deep place she'd need again one day. That evening, after dinner, she taped the photo of the mural to the wall beside her bed, right next to her drawing of a girl in a cape and boots. She looked at me and asked, Can you help me make a new poster? I smiled. For what? I don't know, she said. But next time they give us a stage, I want to be ready. Monday morning arrived with that usual hum of routine, backpacks zipped, cereal bowls half finished, Olivia's sneakers thumping against the floor as she dashed to find her missing pencil pouch. But underneath it all, something felt different. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't sulking. She was steady. Did you pack the mural photo? I asked as we reached the front door. She nodded and held up the rolled printout like a sword. I want it with me just in case someone says something mean again. And what will you say if they do? She straightened her shoulders and looked me dead in the eye. I'll tell them, my mom's art made his school prettier. What did you do today? I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. We arrived just as the bell rang. The courtyard was filled with the usual chaos. Kids trading snacks, friends huddling around Chromebooks, and teachers barking reminders to hurry inside. But as Olivia and I reached the main entrance, something happened. A woman I'd never met, a mother with perfect posture and a designer tote, walked past, paused, and turned. You're the one who painted the wall, aren't you? My heart skipped. Yes. She gave a slight smile. It's beautiful. I drive past it every afternoon. My daughter said it's her favorite part of recess now. Then she walked away. No fanfare. No applause. Just a moment of unexpected grace. Olivia tugged my sleeve. Did you hear that? I did. She called it beautiful. I leaned down and kissed the top of her head. That's because it is. When I dropped her off at class, Mrs. Porter, her homeroom teacher, actually looked up for once. Ms. Marlowe, she said. I waited. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then said, The mural, it's getting a lot of attention. The PTA mentioned it in their newsletter. I raised an eyebrow. Wasn't aware I needed PTA approval to make a child feel seen. She gave a sheepish smile, which was probably the closest thing to an apology I was going to get from her. Then I turned the corner and saw Principal Avery standing outside the library. She caught my eye, gestured with a nod, and walked in. I followed. The library was empty except for Olivia, sitting at a round table, swinging her legs and clutching the photo of the mural. Principal Avery pulled out the chair across from her. "Hi, Olivia," she said gently. Olivia gave her a tight nod, but she didn't speak. "I wanted to talk to you," the principal continued. "Not because you're in trouble. You're not. You were brave. And some of us, forgot how important it is to listen with kindness." Olivia looked up. "You heard what they said?" "I did." "And you're not mad?" Principal Avery paused. "I'm mad at myself for not stopping it. I'm mad that it happened at all. But no, I'm not mad at you. You did everything right." Olivia was silent. She looked down at the photo in her lap. "Your mom reminded all of us," the principal added, "that dignity isn't something people give you. It's something you carry. And you carried it when you stood on that stage, even when others didn't." My eyes stung. Then Olivia asked something that caught us both off guard. "Are they still teachers here?" Avery hesitated.
Yes.
"But they've been spoken to, and they're being held accountable. That means training, conversations, and changes." Olivia nodded again, this time a little firmer. "Okay." Then she said something I'll never forget. "I just didn't want anyone else to feel the way I did." Principal Avery smiled softly. "That's what leaders say." Olivia beamed, the kind of beam that's all teeth and no shame. As we left the library, I whispered, "You did good, baby." "I know," she said proudly. "But I'm not done yet." That afternoon, she asked me if she could write something on the back of her mural printout. I handed her a pen. She wrote, "To the next kid who thinks their story doesn't matter, it does. So do you." We taped it to the inside of her classroom cubby. The next morning, a boy named Ezra asked her if she'd help him draw stars on his math folder. She agreed. 2 days later, the wall outside the art room had a new sign: Creativity Station. Add a star for someone who inspires you. Dozens of stars showed up in 1 week. Some with names.
Some blank.
But all of them shining. One morning, Olivia pointed to one that read simply, "My mom." She leaned in close and whispered, "I didn't write that one." I stared at it for a long time, because that meant someone else had. The week of the assembly arrived faster than I expected. At first, I thought Principal Avery had extended the invitation just to be polite, a way to smooth things over without really following through. But she hadn't forgotten. On Monday, she emailed me a draft of the program. Community Heroes, Celebrating Everyday Impact. Right below, Firefighter Lieutenant Reeves and Nurse Practitioner Tanya Collins, there it was, Maya Marlowe, independent tradeswoman and mural artist. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I couldn't remember the last time someone had seen all of me at once. Not just the cleaner, the painter, the single mom, but a maker, a fighter, a woman who took an insult and turned it into a lesson no one would forget. I asked Olivia if she wanted to sit with me at the assembly. She shook her head. "I think I want to sit in the front row with the other kids," she said. "I want them to know who my mom is after they hear you speak." She'd come a long way from the girl who wished she were invisible that day after career day. Now she wanted to be known. Thursday morning came. I stood backstage behind the faded curtain of the school auditorium, dressed in clean jeans, a button-up, and the same scuffed shoes they laughed at the first time. I wore them on purpose. The room was packed, parents in folding chairs, teachers lined up against the wall, students chattering in small clusters. Olivia was already seated in the front row, poster board in her lap. When Principal Avery stepped up to the mic, her voice was calm, steady, but warmer than I'd ever heard it. "Today, we're celebrating more than careers. We're celebrating contribution, courage, and quiet strength." Our final speaker didn't come here expecting to be recognized. But sometimes, it's the people who show up when no one's watching that teach us the biggest lessons. She glanced backstage and gave me a small nod. I stepped out slowly. The room got quiet. You know how silence can feel thick? This one did. Like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see who I'd be. I walked to the podium and adjusted the mic. Then I looked down at Olivia. She was smiling, not nervously, not unsure.
Proud.
So I began. Hi, I'm Maya Marlowe. You might know me as Olivia's mom. Or the person who painted that big blue mural behind the playground. A few kids cheered. But I'm more than that. I'm a woman who scrubs grout, who patches drywall, who paints faded walls and fixes broken cabinet doors. Not because it's glamorous, but because people deserve to live in places that feel like home. Even if it's not fancy, even if it's temporary, even if no one else sees it but them. I looked at the students. Some of you might grow up to be doctors or engineers or scientists, and that's amazing. But some of you might grow up to be artists, or poets, or people who show up quietly and leave things better than they found them. That matters, too. I paused, then said what I hadn't planned to. Last month, someone laughed when my daughter said I was her hero. A teacher. Someone who should have known better. And for a moment, Olivia felt ashamed for loving me. The room shifted. Teachers shifted in their seats. A few parents exchanged glances. But here's what I told her. You never need permission to be proud of where you come from. You don't need applause to matter. And love, real love, can never be embarrassing. I held up the mural photo. This is the message we left on the wall. Making something better is never a small thing. Whether it's a house, a classroom, or a child's heart. I saw Olivia's teacher, Mrs. Porter, lower her eyes.
Good.
They should feel it.
Not shame.
But responsibility. When I finished, the room clapped. But more than that, they stood. Not everyone, but enough. I saw a sixth-grade boy elbow his friend and whisper something, grinning. I saw a mom wipe her eyes with the sleeve of her jacket. I saw Mr. Belkin, the janitor, stand with his arms crossed like he'd been waiting for this moment all year. And Olivia? She stood too. But she didn't clap right away. She walked up to the stage, held up her poster board, and flipped it around for everyone to see. It said, "My mom doesn't just fix walls. She fixes what people break." I choked back tears. I didn't care that half the gym saw me cry. That night, Principal Avery emailed again. "We'd like to keep the mural permanently, and we'd like to add a plaque beneath it. Something with your words. Your daughter's words." I didn't respond right away. I stared at the blinking cursor. Then I typed, "Add both our names. Let it be a reminder, not just of what happened, but of what came after." Later that week, a teacher who had laughed that day, Mr. Daly, sent Olivia a handwritten card. No excuses. Just an apology. "I failed to see the courage in your voice, Olivia. I'm sorry I laughed. It won't happen again." She tucked it in her journal. Didn't say much, but I knew what it meant. It meant something had shifted, and this time it wouldn't fade. Life began to settle after the assembly, but not back into its old rhythm. No, things felt different now. Not because everyone had suddenly changed their minds or become saints overnight, but because something stronger had taken root. Awareness. People looked me in the eye now when I walked into the school. Not all of them, but enough to notice. And Olivia? She carried herself differently. Her chin was higher, her voice steadier. She didn't hide the mural printout in her binder anymore. She taped it on the inside of her locker door. And then something unexpected happened. It was a Thursday afternoon when Olivia came running out of school with more energy than I'd seen in weeks. She was clutching a stack of papers, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Mom, guess what? I'm going to be part of the student council's new project." I blinked. "What project?" "They're starting a mentorship program. It's called Better Together. Each upper grade student gets paired with a younger kid who might need a little extra encouragement, especially kids who feel left out." "That sounds amazing," I said. "What made them decide to do that?" Her smile softened. "Principal Avery said it was you." I stopped walking. She said the mural, the story, the assembly, it reminded her that kindness has to be taught and practiced, not just talked about. I felt something tighten in my chest.
not pain.
Just that kind of deep, quiet ache that comes when you realize your struggle didn't go unnoticed after all. That weekend, we went to the hardware store together. I let Olivia pick out paints this time: bright purples, soft greens, golden yellow. She had a plan. We came back to the school early Monday morning and met Principal Avery by the West Wing, an old hallway near the art room with peeling paint and blank walls. "This is your canvas," she said, handing Olivia a clipboard. Olivia grinned and held up her sketch, a series of kids, all different sizes, heights, and colors, walking together. Some held books, some held tools, some held each other's hands. Above them was a rainbow banner of words she had handwritten herself. "Everyone deserves a place to belong." And on the far right of the mural in progress, a girl with wild brown hair, standing on a box of paint cans, helping a smaller child hang a star on the wall. It was her, helping someone else shine. We spent 2 weekends painting it together. Other kids started showing up, one with chalk, another with a stencil kit. A few parents brought snacks. Even Mr. Belkin stopped by with old drop cloths and music playing from a tiny speaker. People talked while they painted. They shared stories,
Laughed.
asked questions. One woman, Angela, a mom I'd only known in passing, stood beside me and said, "You know, a few weeks ago, I would have never stepped foot into a school mural project. Thought I didn't belong here." "What changed?" I asked. She pointed at the girl on the mural. "Your daughter did, because she made people like us visible." That stuck with me. That visibility wasn't about recognition or praise. It was about being seen, without explanation, without apology. One afternoon, as we cleaned up our brushes, Olivia turned to me and asked, "Do you think they would have listened if you yelled?" I paused.
No.
"I think they would have dismissed me." She nodded thoughtfully. "So painting it was smarter." "It wasn't just smarter," I said. "It was louder in the way that mattered." She smiled, then whispered, "We should paint our hallway at home next." "Deal," I laughed. "But you're cleaning the brushes this time." By the end of the month, the mural was complete. The hallway looked nothing like it used to. It no longer felt like a forgotten corner. It felt like a space that invited people in, that told kids, "You matter. We see you." At the unveiling, Olivia stood beside Principal Avery and gave a short speech. "My mom taught me that even if people don't clap, you should still speak. Even if they laugh, you should still love. And even if you feel small, you should still create something that leaves a mark." She looked over at me. And she didn't just fix walls. She taught me how to build new ones, with room for everyone. The audience clapped. This time, I let myself tear up. Because this time, the applause wasn't just for me. It was for her. For the girl who had once been laughed at for calling her mother a hero, and who had become one herself, not by shouting, but by painting stars in places no one thought to look. Some stories don't end with applause. They end with a quiet moment, a steady breath, a look between two people who have walked through fire and come out still holding hands. It was late on a Sunday evening, about a month after the mural unveiling, when Olivia wandered into the kitchen while I was doing the dishes. She was wearing her oversized "Reading is my superpower" shirt and dragging her sketchbook behind her like a security blanket. "I finished something," she said. "Homework." "No." She slid the book toward me on the counter. "A comic. About us." I dried my hands and flipped it open. It was drawn in colored pencil, rough lines, mismatched shading, imperfect proportions. But it was perfect. Panel 1 showed a girl standing on stage, holding a poster that said, "My hero." Panel 2 showed adults laughing in the background, their mouths exaggerated with jagged teeth, like cartoon villains. Panel 3 showed the girl crying into her pillow. But then, Panel 4 showed the same girl waking up to find her mom holding a paintbrush like a sword. Panel 5 was the mural. Panel 6 was a crowd of kids and teachers standing in front of it, pointing, smiling, learning. Panel 7 was simple, the girl in a cape, painting a star in the sky. And finally, Panel 8 was the two of us, me and her, sitting on a rooftop, looking out at a world we helped change. There were no words on that last panel. Just stars. Everywhere. My eyes blurred. Did you draw this all by yourself? I asked. She nodded. Took me a week. I pulled her close. Can I keep it? Nope, she said. It's going in the school library.
She grinned.
Miss Porter asked if she could display it near the mural. She said it might help other kids find their voice.
I was quiet for a long time.
Then I said, "You know, you're becoming everything you once said you wanted to be. A poet, an artist, a helper." She tilted her head. "What about a superhero?" I smiled. That too. That week, Principal Avery invited me to join the school's new parent advisory board. Not because I had the loudest voice, but because I had used mine when it mattered. I said yes, not to have power, but to make space for people like me who had felt powerless for too long. In our first meeting, I told the other parents, sometimes justice doesn't look like a headline. It looks like a child no longer afraid to raise their hand in class.
They all nodded.
And I knew I was right where I belonged. Months passed. The mural became a permanent fixture. Teachers used it as part of their social-emotional curriculum. Students took turns adding to the creativity station stars each month. One little girl wrote, "My mom cleans houses. She sings while she does it. That's why I want to sing when I grow up." And another, "My brother is autistic. He doesn't talk much, but he gave me his apple at lunch. That's how I know he loves me." Truth, scrawled in washable marker, sticking better than any lesson plan ever could. At the end of the school year, the principal gave Olivia a certificate. Not for grades. Not for attendance. For courage. It said, "For showing us that a small voice can make big echoes." That night, she tucked the certificate under her pillow and whispered, "I'm glad you didn't stay quiet." I looked at her and said something I'd been carrying for months. "Neither did you." Because this story didn't just belong to me, or to the teachers who laughed, or to the crowd who watched. It belonged to a little girl who once believed she had to apologize for loving her mother, and who now knew that love, when spoken aloud, is a force nothing can erase. Not judgment, not laughter, not silence, just like paint on a wall. It stays. If this story moved you, if you've ever felt dismissed, overlooked, or made to feel small for simply loving who you are or where you come from, then let this story remind you. Your voice matters. Kindness matters. And the way we show up for our children echoes louder than any applause. And if you want to hear more real stories like this one, about courage, redemption, and everyday people making a difference, hit that subscribe button.